In 2012, the Legal Ombudsman confirmed that costs are the single biggest reason for client dissatisfaction with lawyers, far outweighing any other sorts of complaints it receives. The Chief Legal Ombudsman's latest report on costs and customer service reveals, unsurprisingly, that there is a growing desire from clients to pay a fixed price for a legal service as opposed to an hourly rate. Yet it's often been thought that many of the more complex legal services, such as litigation, do not lend themselves to this model. However, one firm is challenging this belief. The findings of the Chief Legal Ombudsman's report on costs and customer service has shown that clients would prefer clearer pricing and more control over how the costs of their case are incurred. One firm attempting to address these issues is Riverview Law, who have adopted a fixed fee pricing model across their entire range of legal services. In order to discuss Riverview Law's ethos and business model, I spoke with Adam Shutkever, Chief Operating Officer. Adam had extensive senior management experience in the banking, investment and professional service sectors before setting up Riverview Law, which opened for business in February 2012. Why did you decide it was time for a different approach to legal service costing?
Well, perhaps I could give you a little bit about my background. I qualified as a barrister, but I've spent most of my career working in industry and in the city. And I'm used to working with teams of professionals on complex matters, often involving large sums of money. And they're structured in a sensible, pre-priced way. That's the way that the rest of the world works. When we're talking to a client, they know what they're going to pay for the services. And for some reason, the legal market was completely different. I've never really understood that. And I've also been a fairly regular buyer of legal services, working in industry. And I was personally very frustrated at the process of agreeing fees, often having to deal with actual fees that differed materially from what had been quoted. And so when the Legal Services Act came along and people started to turn their attention to new legal models, this seemed like an obvious thing to do.
Now, before starting the business, you conducted some market research. What did that research tell you?
It told us first and foremost that clients, businesses primarily, hate the ticking clock. They really do not like the uncertainty of hourly billing. And actually that comes much higher up their list of priorities than absolute cost. It's the ability to budget and to know with some degree of certainty how much their services are going to cost. Businesses also told us that when they've got a legal problem, their priority is getting that problem sorted out, getting it addressed. Exactly how it is addressed is of secondary importance, whether that's by a team led by a QC or a junior barrister or a solicitor, and the extent to which other staff, support staff, paralegals, are involved in achieving that is relatively immaterial. What they want is to have their issue, their problem, sorted out in as efficient and cost-effective a fashion as possible.
So what were the first things you needed to consider when setting up the company?
First and foremost, the requirements of the clients. The beauty of what we're doing is that we've built it from a clean sheet of paper, built it around the client's requirements and not ours as a provider of legal services. So we wanted to understand what clients wanted and how they wanted that to be delivered, and we've built a model that's designed to achieve that. Obviously, part of that process is hiring the right people, very important part. We need to be working with lawyers who are able to advise clients in plain English. We also need to make sure that our teams are supported by a first-class IT infrastructure. Our processes have got to be efficient, and we had to ensure at all points that we minimised our overheads so that we could provide as cost-effective a service as possible. And last but not least, we had to raise the money to do it.
And as a brand new company, how have you managed to attract new clients?
For the smaller companies, The biggest challenge for us is to make sure that they're aware of what we're doing. We know that they like what we're doing, but there's a lot of activity out there, and people who are owner-managers of small businesses have got a lot on their plate. So for us, it was important that we established the Riverview Law brand, and that we place that brand in front of as many of our potential clients as possible. We back that up by having a free registration for our MyView portal, which gives businesses access to a very comprehensive database of precedents, advisory documents, and the like, all for free. And then the icing on the cake is that all members of MyView get to have a free call with one of the legal team on live issues. And then they can see how that call is dealt with, the sort of advice that they'll get from the lawyers, and equally importantly, they'll be able to access the case notes on their personal portal after the event, so they can see how they were advised, any documents that they were referred to are all there. And that's a very powerful way of selling the message. For larger companies, the process is far more person-to-person, and at the major corporate level, then that's down to personal relationships and pretty long-term marketing.
Now, Riverview Law offers legal advisory outsourcing where large businesses are able to outsource the majority of their in-house legal requirements for payment of a fixed fee. What other services do you offer?
We offer a full range of services to the business market, right from annual contracts to the small businesses, through to individual event-based pieces of advice, which might be a litigation matter. It could be relate to the company formation, perhaps, because not everybody wants to buy an annual contract. And coming back to the basic proposition, we've built our offering around the requirements of the customer. So if we're approached by a potential customer who only has an individual issue that they want to deal with, then absolutely we will price that on a fixed price basis, of course, and carry that out. It's often the case, having done that, that they come back to us and to talk about annual contracts because they've had the opportunity to see firsthand the quality of the advice that we're offering.
You offer fixed fees for distinct one-off pieces of work. Can you explain a little bit more about that and how you actually cost it?
Yes, well, obviously it varies from case to case. In a straightforward matter, such as, for instance, the drafting of constitutional documents for a company, then we'll sit down with the client, understand their requirements, and we'll give them a fixed and firm price for achieving that. Obviously, how we do that is based on our assessment of how much work is involved. And so it's not rocket science, but where we differ from the conventional model is that the risk of more work being involved than had originally been anticipated lies with us and not with the client. For more complex work, like ongoing litigation, then we'll price from point to point because it's impossible to predict at the outset how a particular piece of litigation will progress. But there are obvious and clear landmarks in the litigation process, and we will price from one landmark to the next. The most important element, and this is what clients want, is that they're not being billed by the hour.
And what about the annual contracts? What do clients get and how do you cost those?
Well, the scope of the annual contracts is, well, it's no secret. It's on our website. And it's very comprehensive. It's designed to provide a full range of business legal advice to companies. And you will see from the description of the service scope on the website that it really covers pretty much everything that you'd expect to arise for businesses of that size. The scope finishes at the point at which formal proceedings commence. And from that point, going forward, then again we will provide a fixed price quote to our clients, which they are free to accept or not accept. If they don't accept our price, then we'll hand over the case notes in full, direct from the system, to their chosen advisor. So they have that flexibility.
And what sort of feedback have you received about the service so far?
Very positive. We knew from the market research that we conducted how important price certainty was to companies. I think we've been very pleasantly surprised at how quickly businesses have understood what it is that we're doing. And in particular, the larger corporates who are obviously very major buyers of legal services and who have readily adopted the legal advisory outsourcing approach. And that's very good. We're very happy with that.
Now, Riverview Law started from scratch an entirely new company. Does that mean that the fixed fee costing model is something that established law firms just can't consider?
No, absolutely not. As I've said, this is not rocket science. It actually boils down to what the firm wants to achieve and how each individual firm decides it wants to approach delivering the requirements of its clients. Every law firm, or most law firms, I think, will have experience of providing legal services on a fixed price basis. Some are more fixed than others, but increasingly their clients are requiring it. So it's certainly not something that is alien to traditional law firms. The real issue is, if they take a long, cold look at their own business models, is as to whether they want to make that leap and design what they're doing around the requirements of the marketplace.
So what questions should law firms be asking themselves when deciding whether this model is right for them?
Well, they need to look at their own business, at the types of clients that they're working with, and clearly, if they have a particular model that isn't suited to fixed pricing, then they wouldn't be following the principle of delivering what their clients want by ramming it down their throats. And so it's not going to be for everybody. I also think that hand in hand with fixed pricing, there's a requirement to take a long, cold look at overheads and the structure of the firm. Anybody can deliver fixed pricing. It's really a question of where the risk of pricing sits. But I think alongside that, I think where our model differs from traditional law firms is that we've re-engineered the whole of the end-to-end process. We've put in IT systems which have assisted in that process, and it's made us extremely efficient. And so there is a question there which they would need to address as to whether they can compete with that degree of efficiency.
And what, in your opinion, is the key to operating a successful fixed fee model?
I think a total commitment to delivering a fixed fee model, an understanding of clients' requirements, recruiting and retaining a first-class team with a similar understanding of what the model is all about, putting in place excellent procedures and workflow processes underpinned by a proper technology platform. I think that would be a good start.